What's up, YouTube? I want to do a discussion today. Today, we're going to talk about why yo-yo players need to be paid, how they should be paid, and how they should earn it. So, let's talk about why professional yo-yo players need to be paid. And I'm talking, you know, your top tier sort of guys. Your Scales guys, your Gentry Steins, your Evan Nagaus, those guys. They should be paid for their yo-yoing prowess, at least to the point to where yo-yo makes them a little bit of money and at least pays for itself. So let me explain what I'm talking about here. So the way yo-yo works right now is there's yo-yo contests, and the best players in the world go to these yo-yo contests. Sometimes their sponsors pay their entrance fees, sometimes not. A lot of times their sponsors, if they're really good, you know, if they have sponsors, they'll rent a room and everybody will stay and all that stuff. But as far as all of that is concerned, more or less, for the most part, the players have to get themselves there. Now, for the local players to, like, you know, come from Cleveland to Pittsburgh or New York to Cleveland or whatever, that's not too much of a big deal. It's really not. It's just kind of a fun weekend trip. But when you're coming to talking about things like nationals and, you know, there's players coming from all over going to Chicago, or even Worlds. Last year, everybody flew to Iceland, and then this year's going to be in China. I mean, not that I don't think it should be in China. I do. I think China finally actually needs a world contest, but that's expensive. It costs a fortune to go to China. A lot of people ask me, oh, you going to Worlds in China? Like, no. I can't afford to go to China. And I have a full-time job. Like, I'm not, like, just a kid playing. Yeah, like, I have a full-time job. And I have a little bit of extra from this. And honestly, I think that, you know, I'm glad it's in China, but I also think it being in China and the cost of going to China is going to diminish the amount of top competitors that are going to be there. I think there's going to be top competitors who just aren't there. And the other kind of issue with that is, especially at these big contests, there's no cash prizes. So the guys that went to Iceland last year and got, you know, let's say they got top 3 in 1A. That was a pretty competitive division. It was really fun to watch and a lot of really good freestyles. They didn't get a penny for that. You know, hey, you're the second best yo-yo player in the world. Good job. Here's a trophy. I don't agree with that. Clearly, I don't agree with that, because that's not the way we ran our contest here in Pittsburgh. At East Coast Masters, the #1 yo-yo player, the guy who won 1A, got cash money in his hand. Boom. There's 350 bucks. Take it. Enjoy it. And that's how I feel like contests should work, particularly national contests. Like, and for the best players. Like, yeah, their sponsors should help them out a little bit, but I feel like if you're going to contests regularly and performing well and doing well and winning the contests, you should be able to accumulate at least enough contest winnings to have those contest winnings at least pay for your trips. So that kind of gets me into the next point, is that why yo-yo players need to be paid. They need to be paid because we want them to go to competitions and to compete, but at the same time, it costs money to go to a competition and compete, so they need money in order to do that. Now, yes, sponsors help a lot, but sponsors can only do so much. Most yo-yo companies are kind of running on a shoestring budget. They're mostly little companies, boutique companies, and yeah, they can help, you know, they get a big Airbnb at Worlds, and they, you know, help with the plane tickets and stuff like that, but especially, like, you know, going to China, like, think about a little company like Recess. Now, you know, Recess isn't that tiny of a company, but for, you know, this grand scope of things, think about, you know, a company like Recess, somewhere in the middle between, like, they're not as big as Duncan and Yo-Yo Factory, but they're, like, you know, not a one-man band, you know, pumping out 6 yo-yos a year. Although they don't pump, anyway, not important. So, Recess is a relatively large team, and for them to get their relatively large team to, say, Nationals in Chicago, not that big of a deal, you know? Have a bunch of guys ride together, give some guys some stipends, get an Airbnb up there, And, you know, that'll be fine, and that'll work out great for them. It won't cost Recess too much to do that, and, you know, in turn, you know, they can have a good showing at Nationals, have all their guys there and all that stuff. Now, to get all their guys to China, it's going to be a huge expense. Even just getting a couple guys to China is going to be a monstrous expense. And I'm just not sure where or how the, like... I just feel like there's not enough money in Yo-Yo to be able to, like, say, hey, guys, let's all go to China. It's like, whoa, that's something. And so, basically, it's going to be a lot of money out of players' pockets to get to China, and that's not Recess's fault, or that's not, you know, whatever small... I'm just using Recess as an example. I don't have any idea what their finances are like. But for small companies like that to have to foot all of that bill is sort of like... I mean, that's tough, but, I mean, are you going to have all the players on Duncan and Yo-Yo Factory? Because then Duncan and Yo-Yo Factory can't foot the bill of 200 guys. You know, it's just not feasible. So, what's more feasible is for contests, and the top players particularly, to be able to accumulate cash throughout the year via winning contests to help offset the cost of going to those contests, especially the big ones. Now, moving on to that, you know, how, you know, in order to make money, you have to earn it. I go to my job every day. I earn a living. I make a little bit of money from YouTube. That usually generally pays for my yo-yo endeavors. It's not much, but it's, you know, it pays for my, it's going to pay for me to go to Nationals, and it's going to pay for, you know, little fun yo-yo excursions like that, going to random contests and crap like that. It buys me yo-yos here and there. That's really what I want it for. But, you know, as a guy who would be like a top player, think about your Gentry Steins. Although Gentry makes enough off of sales, I believe, from like the replays and the shutters that he's okay. But, you know, that makes like, what, 1 or 2 guys that are able to do that? Maybe 3? You know, Gentry, probably Paul Kerbal. Everybody's got a Horizon, too. I feel like there's a, like, it's like Shutter, then Horizon, and then maybe like Edge after that. So Evan's probably okay for the moment, but I'm sure they would like to be doing better. Like, you know what I mean? So there's always room for improvement. So how do they earn it? How do yo-yo guys earn stuff? Well, first is with signature yo-yos and getting funds for selling your signature yo-yos, getting some sort of a commission on yo-yo sales, because your personality sells the yo-yo, because it's your signature yo-yo. And I think that is first and foremost really where the top guys kind of get the most cash to get there. But secondarily after that, I feel like there's other avenues that are rather less explored. YouTube, I would say, is one thing. There are some Yo-Yo Factory players who are on YouTube. It's rather inconsistent, though, and nobody's really doing like a very consistent, even if it was like once or twice a week, very consistent, boom, 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 with, you know, high production quality and produced videos and stuff like that. Even if it was once every other week, that would be a way to sort of build up and earn cash, especially once you hit that threshold of over 1,000 subscribers and yada, yada, yada. Now, there are a few people who have already hit that threshold, Gentry Stein being one of them, Ann Connolly, Brandon Vu, guys like that, but there really should be more of that. Like, those guys should be producing contests. And I really like what the Scales guys are doing, because they're sort of starting to do that, to sort of have Yo-Yo pay for itself, and then, you know, maybe be a little bit more at some point. And that's really where they're going with that. And I wish them the best luck. I'm here to help that, because I think that that's very cool, because they have a totally different aspect than what I have. But the work would need to be put in that regard in order to make the money to get it along. But I feel like their sponsors could then also help to promote that, which they do. They're generally pretty good at. The other things is putting on clinics, speaking at schools, and running yo-yo clubs, things like that. This is probably a little bit tougher, but having little boutique things and running yo-yo classes and things like that could be very lucrative. They pay speakers to come speak. Why wouldn't they pay good yo-yo players to come yo-yo and teach kids at schools? And it seems like either an unexplored avenue or maybe just something that wouldn't work. I'm just sort of spitballing here. But it just seems to me that there should be other avenues for guys who are really good at yo-yo. I'm talking top tier guys to make money in yo-yo. In addition to that, we kind of need to change this mindset that we have. And there is this mindset that people should yo-yo for free. And it's not everybody, but it's a lot of people who just think that yo-yo players shouldn't make money. And it's really ridiculous. And it's ridiculous because these guys spend hours and hours and hours learning and working on the routines and just learning and practicing and trying to be good at yo-yo. Maybe you think that football players shouldn't get paid or basketball players shouldn't get paid because they're just playing a game too. But this is sort of a very similar type of skill set development type of deal. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of effort. And quite frankly, if you're good at something, you shouldn't do it for free. You know what I'm saying? That's just my opinion, but I think it's an opinion that a lot of people share. And I feel like if you don't share in that opinion, you're sort of... I'd really like to know why, because it doesn't seem to make sense to me whenever I say something to the tune of, yo-yo players need to be paid. Contests need to have cash prizes. Things like that. There's always that, like, 10% naysayers like, no, I think we should get all that out of it. I don't think anybody should get paid. I don't think... That doesn't make sense to me. To me, that sort of ends up squashing the hobby, because then, at some point, yeah, you're great at yo-yo, but where do you go from there? Congrats on wasting your time. You can't do anything with that. You're never going to win money. You're never, like, why waste money to go to contests? Like, that, to me, is, like, sort of a downslide. It's like, well, I've hit this point, now I'm done. And that happens to tons of yo-yo players. They hit a point, and they still like to play yo-yo, and that's fun and all. They stop going to contests, they stop competing, they stop, just participating in everything because they get jaded. They spent all this money and done all this stuff, and then they're just like, well, I got all these yo-yos, and I spent all this money going all these places, won all this stuff, and made money for other people, but I have nothing to show for it other than a box of yo-yos that I beat up because all I did was play the crap out of them. And I feel like that's really sort of it's an injustice both to them and an injustice to the yo-yo community and to yo-yos in general, because if there was incentive to stick around and, you know, use your yo-yo career to make money at contests and go places, because that's fun. And if you can kind of have it paid for at least so that it doesn't, you're making money to the point to where it doesn't cost you extra money to do this thing that you love and that you're one of the best in the world at, you can give back at some point once your hand-eye coordination has sort of dwindled to the point to where you're just not a top-tier player anymore. That happens around 27, 28. Just letting you guys know that. By the time you're 33, you're not as quick as the 18-year-olds. I'm just telling you. You're just not. But then those guys can come back and run contests. Put contests together. The other thing is that contests need to also make money. I'm not exactly sure how to do that consistently. I know we did okay. We didn't lose money. It didn't cost us money to run ECM. We've got a little bit stashed away for next year as well. But, I mean, for the most part, anything that came in, we spent. It went back out. We either bought yo-yos at the contest, bought food, whatever. And paid for the freaking contest. That was a huge expenditure, and we tried to do it on the relatively low cost because we knew everybody. But I feel like, you know, there's like this career path for yo-yos, and we should be able to follow it. Be a good yo-yo player. Get sponsored. Get yo-yos. Go to yo-yo contests. Win some money. Retire from competing. Help to organize and put on contests. Make a little money doing that so that it's worth your time and effort and energy. And then it's fun, and we continue to all have fun, and everybody sort of lives within that cycle. And while we're living within that cycle of competition, or competitor, competition, contest organizer, we're all sort of not, I don't want to say not spending money, because people are spending money, but at the same time, like, the best competitors can kind of transition along the way, and they don't have to take up an extra part-time job. Now you should have a part-time job, clearly. Like, yo-yo's not a career, necessarily. But if you want it to be your secondary thing, I think that should be a viable option. And, you know, that's just my opinion. But tell me what you think. I need to know down in the comments. I think we need to pay yo-yo players. I think we need to insert money into this because I think money helps to grow things. I think money helps keep things popular. I think it helps keep people engaged. And, you know, it helps people buy more yo-yos. So it's really kind of a, like, circular thing. But, that's just what I think. But that's going to do it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Cheers to you. I didn't even touch my beer. I talked for like 15 minutes straight. And I'll see you next time.